Welcome back, everybody. Mark with Exotic Car Play Place, coming back at you today to compare this beautiful X3 M40i, which of course was lent to me by the great folks at Edmonton BMW. But let's get down to it. Now, I've been getting calls from the dealers, both dealers actually, knowing, hey, do you have an X5 right now? And I say, yes, of course I do. I have an E70 X5 diesel. So they call and they ask, hey, are you willing to trade that in? And so the question's asked a few times now, do you want to trade in your E70 X5 for this? Well, so the question in my mind is prompted, is this a better vehicle? And how does this really compare so that it can replace my X5? Yes, the X5 is the next scale up, of course, but it's also that way in terms of price too. This is a great vehicle. I have a growing family. A lot of my kids now are grown up. Do I need the full space of the X5 anymore? Not sure. So it comes down to, can I make do with an X3? And let's compare the two and we'll talk about which one I think is actually nicer or better. The styling, of course. This one has magnificent 21-inch wheels. They're beautiful. Absolutely amazing. Now on my X5, it has 19-inch wheels, which is much smaller. Probably cheaper to get replacement wheels for and tires, but that's one advantage, disadvantage. Then we look at the front, of course. The X5 having the old school headlights, they're getting a little faded, a little dull. Them in general are not LED, so they're as well a little bit bland. The new X3 has these beautiful adaptive LEDs. That's a nice upgrade. Look at the grille difference between the X3 and my X5, as well as the overall layout of the bottom spoiler. Much more aggressive here on this car. Then, of course, you have the general styling. Which one do you prefer? Do you like the X3 or do you like my X5? So we go around. The taillight configuration is a little bit cleaner on here. Although I have the nicer taillights on my generation, the E70. It's also a very attractive taillight on the E70. The bottom setup here, of course, I've got the dual pipes on the E70, just as you see here on the X3M. Looking at the rest of this, a very attractive look overall. Which one would you say is the better look? Now, this one, of course, has the panoramic sunroof, but so does the X5 also have the panoramic sunroof. And so then we look inside. What do we got here? We got full power, which I have in the X5. Leather seats, very similar in a lot of senses. All the technology's there in both vehicles. Now, in terms of the overall look at the dash layout in here. You've got a lot of nice finishing, lots of different elevation changes, lots of different texture changes. You've got this stitch look right here, whereas on the X5, it's more of a continual type of layout on the dashboard. You've got the upgraded iDrive system, much better than even the one I have in the E70 for sure. Now look at the dashboard. You've got the digital layout here, very attractive, as well as the lighting on the door. Look at that purple lighting, the accent lighting. Do not have that on the E70. Although that being said, like sitting here and looking across, the X5 has a wee bit more room across than this does in here in the X3. Again, is it the end of the world? I find myself, with adequate space in here, lots of foot room. No issue there. And to be honest, with power options, seats, nice finishing on the door, of course. Everything is here that you could possibly want. You look up, everything is pretty typical. Nothing out of the ordinary, of course. But again, the newer iDrive system, that's the big thing here. You've got the sport features. I also do not have any way to manually, well, you sort of have in the E70, you have the older style of shifting versus the X3 here, which has a very nice shiftable transmission. Even though it's an automatic, it's not a DCT or anything. It is very nice to shift and actually drives very briskly. So that's a nice setup. I must admit, that's the single part that I think I really like better is the gearbox and the fact that this has less turbo lag. Now, my other X5, of course, you know, is a diesel, turbo diesel, and it has large amounts of turbo lag. This car is a gas turbo, but does not have any noticeable amount of turbo lag, making this car much more nice to drive on that sense. And then we look in the back seats here, of course. Don't mind my camera gear. Again, you've got more of that accent lighting. It's just really sharp. It really improves the ambiance overall. Now, going down here in the X5, you've also got the controls. In my X5, you have the heated seats, just like you do here, and the heating controls. But you'll notice there's only one DC outlet there. Whereas in my X5, I actually have two. So there's a little bit of a compromise there. As well, I must tell you, getting into this thing is much more difficult. And I mentioned in one of my other videos, access in here is a little more involved. Like, it's a little tighter getting in here than it is in the X5, where there's a lot more room in this mid-drift area. Now, the other thing that the X5 has, that this thing does not, is mine has the optional third row. And looking at the back here, there's no third row here. It's literally just the hatch space. And that's the space, I think, largely that you're giving up with the X3, whereas the X5 has extra capacity or the third seats, depending on how you prefer it. Now, I know the third row seating was an option anyway, but there is just that much more room with the 5 generation, the 5 series of the X car. Now, of course, overall, I would say very similar. I mean, there's not a lot different from here to the X5. I would say the comparisons are very, very similar. The big thing is just access into this back seat area where it gets a little bit. Now, the one thing I like better in here, again, the X3, is these pull downs. You pull that and that seat just drops right from here. So easy from here, whereas the X5, you really have to reach in way at the back of the seat and pull a handle and flip it up. And so you're reaching way across the whole back of this thing and pushing it forward. So it becomes a little bit more cumbersome to deal in the X5 to push the seats down if you're loading some bigger luggage. This is much more user-friendly with this little pull handle, which you have on both sides, by the way, just like that. So this is much nicer, I would honestly say. Of course, you have, you know, lots of quality here. You've got lots of space, storage space, because there's run flats, so you have room there. Overall, this is, you know, a very comparable layout. You don't give up much with the X3 from the X5, other than a little bit of storage room and, of course, a third row seating. So again, in summary, really, the big thing comes with the technology is what you're seeing in here over the X5. You've got all these lane assist systems, pedestrian warning systems, a lot of things that you don't have on the E70, which are kind of nice. You've got the cruise control, the adaptive cruise control in here. You know, even this, though, heated steering wheel, I also have in the X5, so we're not giving that up. You realistically, the big thing is all the safety features. You're getting all the extra assist programs in here, and you're getting the improved iDrive system, which is, it's much, much better than the old one, of course, a lot better. So you let me know, guys. What do you think? X3 or keep the old X5? So everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that summarized it for you. Which one is actually the better vehicle, in your opinion? You let me know. I'd love to hear in the comment section below which one you like better. Of course, mine's the older generation E70, but of course, here's the new stuff, but it's a smaller vehicle. So let's talk about it. Make sure you subscribe, like, thumbs up, and don't forget to share with your friends. Hope to talk to you guys soon. See you then. Bye-bye.